I finally benched 3 plates. The big 315, a milestone that, to be honest with you, a few years ago, I'm not sure if I was actually ever going to reach it. And in this video, I'm gonna walk through what I learned on my journey to benching 315, not just about training, but about life. Because I've spent a long time training. I've dedicated so much time to researching and studying and optimizing my diet. And I started training when I was 14 years old, strictly for baseball. And when I got done playing baseball, I was 24 and wasn't really sure what I was gonna do with my life. And so I just took all of my effort and energy that I was putting into baseball and I put it into the weight room. But ever since 2021, I kind of had a plateau of what my bench was at. It was right at 275. And, the first thing that I learned on my journey going to benching 315 is that you have to have a plan. And this applies to all aspects of life, because training and life or any skill development are very, very similar, right? And the first thing that I learned is that you have to have a plan. And it sounds so simple, right? And it goes so much deeper than following a program, okay? But it really comes down to actually having a legitimate plan and asking yourself, okay, realistically, how much time is this going to take me, right? Because for the longest time, I would just tell people yeah, I want to bench 315. It's one of my goals to bench 315. But I would just go in the gym and, work hard and train and, but I wouldn't really progress, right? I wouldn't really progress because for anybody out there that knows anything about lifting, you have what's called newbie gains. So anytime you try something new, right, you get in the gym and you start lifting a little bit, you're gonna make a ton of progress and then eventually you're gonna kind of stall out, right? And so I got my newbie gains a decade ago. I'm not gonna get any more newbie gains. I'm 28 years old. I've been training way too hard for way too long to get it, right? And so I was telling everybody yeah, I wanna bench 315. I wanna bench 315. But there was no plan. There was no plan of attack of how I was actually going to take my bench from 275 to 315. And that 275, to be fair, was an absolutely terrible rep. So the reality is that that's how most people treat all of their goals, is that they say, I want to make more money. I want to have a better relationship. I want to get in better shape. They just talk and talk and talk and talk, but they never sit down and figure out okay, realistically, what would it look like for me to bench 315? What would it look like for me to get in better shape? How much better shape do I want to get in, right? And so I had a very, very, very specific goal of, I want to bench 315 pounds, okay? I am benching 275 pounds. That's a 40-pound jump. And when you're already in that mid-2s to upper 2s range, increasing your bench gets so much harder, especially if you've been training for a long time, right? This is coming from somebody who, I used to be able to squat 4 plates for reps. I used to be able to deadlift 5 plates. I've been training a pretty good amount of time. I'm pretty strong, especially for the average person, right? So I had to come up with a strategic plan. And what I did was I got one of my friends who benches maybe 340 or something like that. And I was like, hey bro, can you program me? Can you help me actually get there? Because I had to ask myself, well, if I'm actually serious about hitting my goal, then I should probably have a legitimate plan to get there. I should probably know an exact roadmap to get there. And that's the thing with a lot of people, is they're afraid to ask for help because they think that asking for help maybe makes them look lesser, right? So they go on YouTube and they go on Instagram Reels and they go all over the place and they never actually end up achieving their goal and they just spin in circles. And that's exactly what I did for literally 3.5 years. Just telling people, I want to bench 315. I got a very legitimate plan and I was structured and I was disciplined to that plan. I ate the same thing every single day. I hit my bench workouts, and what having a plan allowed me to do was, instead of just going in the gym and training to failure every single time, I couldn't handle that level of fatigue, right? And so by getting with somebody who could actually help me and had been there, done that themselves, and had seen plenty of other people do it, they were able to put together a program for me to follow so that way I could slowly increase the weight up, right? The second thing I learned is that you have to detach your self-worth from these outcomes, right? And obviously, like for me, for the longest time, I thought that benching 315 was, I don't know, maybe gonna give me the right to like tell people I was jacked, or that it was gonna earn the respect of other people, or that girls were gonna think I was cool because I could bench 3 plates. And I'll tell you this, nobody cares that I can bench 3 plates, right? Nobody cares except me, obviously. I think it's cool, but because of the work that I've put in over time, right? And so for a really long time, and this happened in my baseball career, I would just attach my self-worth to the outcomes that I wanted to achieve, right? Everybody places their worth or their value in something different. And this is something that I see with like a lot of, former baseball players, is they will judge the value of somebody else based on how good that person is at baseball, because that's how they view themselves, which is just a recipe for a terrible identity crisis whenever you get done playing, because at the end of the day, like you can't play baseball forever, right? And so if you put your identity in something that is short term and that is fleeting and that can be taken away from you at any time, then you're going to have a really fragile ego. And that's exactly where I was when it came to the bench, right? When I started really saying like, I want to bench more, I want to bench more, I want to bench more, I started placing my value and my self-worth and like how jacked I thought that I was, or how much I want, like how heavy I could bench. And then when I would bench with my friends and I would bench more, I would feel like superior. But if they bench more than me, I would feel less than. And like when you're around other people who you bench more than, like it's awesome. But at the end of the day, there's always going to be somebody stronger than you. And I think that applies directly to everything in life. Like, for example, like inside of my business, I used to think I was the man because my business did $100,000 in a month. I try not to like gas my stats out too much in these videos, but my business did over $100,000 a month, and I thought I was the man, right? Because everybody else that I was around was at the time, entrepreneurs making $20,000 to $50,000 a month in their business, and then the people that I knew from college or from high school were working 9-to-5 jobs, making, if they're lucky, $100,000 a year. And I'm making that in a month, right? And so, yeah, I thought I was the man because I placed my ego entirely in my ability to generate revenue, right? I placed my ego in my ability to lift weights, right? And so I judged everybody else based on that measuring stick. But then as soon as I met somebody who made $1 million a month, I was like, whoa. And it really caused me to like take a step back and look in the mirror, be like, whoa, I'm really not the man. I am such a small fry. I have so much further to go. And it really humbled me. And it really allowed me to detach my self-worth from the outcomes that I was getting, right? And so now I don't necessarily see anybody's, bench or how jacked they are, or how lean they are, or how much money they make as a judgment of their own value, right? And I don't think more or less of somebody because of, these things that they've accomplished, right? And so if you can place your self-worth in who you are and the work that you do and the fact that you are doing something you're passionate about and giving it your all and living your best life, whatever that is, that's where you can draw the confidence from. And when you detach your need to hit specific numbers, or you detach your value from these numbers that you're trying to hit, you can actually think very clearly about accomplishing these goals, right? The reason why I was never able to hit 315 is because I was like always trying to go in there and ego lift and max out. So I would accumulate all this fatigue, and then eventually I would just fall off a cliff, and I wouldn't know how to build it back up because I never built myself any runway. It's like I was just like burning my body out, right? I was creating an unsustainable training routine, which is why I kept running into that ceiling, running into that ceiling, running into that ceiling. It was the exact same thing in my business, right? And so as soon as I detached from that, I could think clearly and be like, all right, well, I probably need to follow some sort of a plan. I probably can't blow it out every single time. Like, what would I need to do in order to hit this in, let's say, 6 months? And the plan just became so incredibly clear, I was like, okay, like I just need to stick to this, and like over an extended period of time, if I just do this, like I'm gonna get there, right? And so detaching your value and your ego from the outcomes that you generate and the need to hit these numbers, whatever it is, right? Or to accomplish whatever goal you have. It's not going to give you the confidence or the validation that you think it is. I bench 315, right? I get it off my chest. I put it on the rack. I look around. Nobody says anything. One guy in the gym was like, dang, dude, 3 plates. You're strong. That's impressive. One guy. That was it. And then nobody said anything to me since. It's like, who cares? Who cares? I want to bench 315 because I want to bench 315. I want to bench 365 because I am pursuing my best self and seeing what I'm capable of. So that way I can share these lessons with you guys. That's what motivates me. But if I was still attached to being like, I need to bench 315, like I might have hurt myself in the process, okay? The third thing, and this is the most important lesson that I learned on this journey, is that you have to commit to the long-term process and accept that it's going to take way longer than you think it is, right? So when I really committed to saying like, I'm gonna try and bench 315, it was in November. And I was like, yeah, it's probably gonna take me like at least 6 months. And I had just hit 275 for 2. So that probably puts me at 285, 290, somewhere in that range, maybe 295 on a good day. So it's like 20 to 30 pounds I got to improve on the bench, right? I'm like, all right, yeah, it's probably going to take me like at least 6 months. And looking back, it's like I probably set my target way far out in advance. But the reason that I did that is so that way I could just accept like, yeah, I want this tomorrow. I want this outcome tomorrow, but I will accept the fact that it's going to take way longer, and I'm just going to commit to the work. And then the outcome is going to come as a byproduct of all this work that I put in. I asked myself, how much work would I need to put in consistently in order to make this outcome inevitable, right? Instead of what's the shortest amount of time that I could possibly accomplish this in? And then I have to be super perfect every single day. And the reason why that's a problem is because unless you're optimizing your entire life around this one outcome, in this instance it's benching, unless you're optimizing your entire life around like, let's say benching 315, you're probably not going to be perfect. You're not going to have a perfect diet. You're not going to have perfect sleep. You're not going to have perfect workouts. Things are going to come up. Like I had to travel. I literally just went to Minnesota because my grandfather passed away, right? I did not know that was going to happen. So obviously that threw off my routine. Fortunately enough, I actually benched 315 before I went to Minnesota. But point being, right? I ended up going back home. My parents have a place in New Orleans. I went to New Orleans for a little bit. That threw off my routine, okay? And so the point is, I set a long-term goal, longer than I accepted that it was going to take longer than I wanted it to because I wanted it to happen today. And I committed mentally to 6 months of dedicated work. And if that's what it took, then that's what it took, right? Because if I'm dedicated and I'm committed to it and I'm following this plan for the next 6 months, like it's actually unreasonable that I wouldn't accomplish this goal. In the past, I would be like, I want it to happen right now, so I'd gain a little bit of body fat. I wouldn't like the way I look in the mirror because now my ego is damaged. And then boom, I would cut, and then now I can't bench anymore. But then I would look in the mirror and be like, yo, I'm kind of skinny. I don't like the way I look. Now I bench terribly. And then I would try and bulk up. And it was just this roller coaster. And I could never actually make any real progress on one side or the other, right? And so since I committed so much further out, it happened in 7 weeks. 7 weeks to go from hitting 275 for 2 to 315 to 1 for 1. Literally, that's all it took. Was committing long-term, doing the work every single day, detaching my ego from it, and just putting in the work. I didn't overshoot my bench, right? On the days where my coach told me, okay, you need to leave a couple reps in the tank on these top sets. I was like, all right, fine. Like, this is gonna take me 6 months anyway. Like, I don't have to blow it out. So I would actually leave a couple sets in the tank. Whereas in the past, my ego wouldn't let me do that because what happens if somebody around the gym sees me benching such little weight? What are they gonna say about me? Even though I don't even know what they're thinking, But that's where my head was at because my ego was so attached to the validation, to what I thought other people were gonna say. And I'm here to tell you, benching 315, it's cool. It's super cool. If you're a man watching this and you like to work out and you can't bench 315, I would highly recommend you do it. I would highly recommend you take the time to do it, right? Because what I learned about myself and what I learned about just like accomplishing goals is that you realistically can accomplish any goal that you have set out for yourself. You just have to be willing to make the trade, right? Are you willing to go to the gym, 5 days a week, every single week for the next 3 years? Are you willing to do that? Because if you do it and you're on top of your diet and you don't drink and you get good sleep and you hydrate and you take care of your body and you do your mobility and you do your stretching and you do all the stuff that you need to be doing, then guess what? You can do it too. So that's what I think a lot of people don't realize about accomplishing goals, is that you realistically can accomplish any goal that you have for yourself. You just have to ask, am I willing to make the trade? Figure out what it would take for you to accomplish that goal, and then ask yourself, am I willing to make this trade? If the answer is yes, then do it. You're going to hit the target. It's only a matter of time. You just need time to catch up to your commitment and your work ethic and let time do its thing so that way it compounds. Or you can look at the work and be like, 5 days a week, disciplined diet, good sleep, hydrate, no alcohol. I don't know. I don't know if I'm willing to do that, right? That's fine. You can still bench 315. It's probably just going to take you longer, which is cool. The point is, you can accomplish anything that you want in your life if you're willing to make the trade. And you just have to understand what you're up against. What is it actually going to take for me to accomplish this goal? If, let's say, you want to make $100,000 a month, it's like, okay, realistically, what is that going to take? Am I willing to make that trade? If you're not willing to make that trade, you need to detach from that desire right now, because that is a recipe for you to be unhappy the rest of your life, right? A lot of people say they want to be millionaires. A lot of people say they want to be, super jacked. They want to be in really good shape. But they're not willing to do what it takes. So they just create this life in which they're unhappy. I respect people who are like, maybe not in the best shape, but they're like, yeah, I really don't care to be in shape. Really don't care to be super jacked. I'm like, hey, I don't really understand that. Why would you not want to max out all your character stats? Why would you not want to become the best version of yourself? But you know what? If that's not what you want, that's cool. Or somebody's like, hey, it would be cool to be jacked, but yeah, I just like pizza way too much. It's like, yo, respect it. Because at least they're self-aware. At least they're not telling themselves this story, because that's usually what ends up happening. People will be like, oh, I want to be jacked. I want to be super jacked. I want to bench 315. I want to have big biceps, whatever it is. And then they're not willing to do the work to actually get there. But then what they do is they justify all these reasons as to why they're not jacked, rather than just accepting you're lazy. It's cool. It's cool if you want to be lazy, just accept it, right? You can live your life that way. I will never do that. So as long as you have a plan of attack and you know exactly what you need to do in order to accomplish that goal, and you look it in the mirror and you say, I accept this responsibility. I am willing to do what it takes to get that outcome. Then just stay on that path, and over an extended period of time, you'll get there. You'll get there. That's how the world works. But if you look at the work and you're not willing to do the work, then just accept that you're never going to get there. And don't look at other people who have what you want and go, must be nice. It's like, you could have that too. You're just not willing to do what it takes. And then you're telling yourself a story that it's anything but your inability to commit to it, right? So I'm not the strongest person in the world. I did not accomplish benching 315 in a much shorter amount of time than other people. I'm not the richest person in the world. I'm not the best looking, nothing, right? But what I can tell you is that I'm 100% committed to being the best version of myself. And me benching 315 is just a stepping stone on that way. It is just a stepping stone on that way. It's just a checkpoint. And I knew that it was just going to be a checkpoint. Just like moving into this place, just like buying my watch, right? All these things in my life are a checkpoint on my pursuit of becoming the best version of myself and continuing to progress every single day. Because that is what motivates me, is to become the best version of myself so that way I can share it with the world and hopefully inspire you to become the best version of yourself, whatever that looks like, okay? I'm very fortunate. I'm super stoked that I was able to accomplish my goal, but this is just the beginning. My next goal is that I'm gonna get absolutely shredded, sub 10% by my birthday, June 13th. If you know me, go ahead, send me a birthday gift. Anyway, I'll be documenting that journey, obviously, but hopefully this is valuable for you. Obviously, I related everything to, the bench press, but the lessons in here are way deeper than just, how do you get more jacked? How do you bench more weight? It's how do you get good at anything and actually accomplish the goals that you set out for yourself. So hopefully you got a ton of value out of this. Happy Friday, y'all. Catch you in the next one. Peace.